After posting one of the best running back seasons on record, Saquon Barkley's career renaissance in Philadelphia has drawn more media attention to him than he has at any other point in his career. While his journey to the top has been well documented, there are definitely some intriguing details about his life that are often left out. From Offensive Rookie of the Year to being discarded by the franchise that drafted him, today we're going to go into the weeds, taking a look at 10 things you didn't know about Saquon Barkley. Now, Saquon was born in the Bronx in New York as a part of a family of passionate Jet fans, none more so than his father, Alibay. With the team logo tattered right above his elbow, Alibay was not exactly super pleased when his son did get drafted to the blue side of the city, second overall in the 2018 NFL Draft. This was made even worse by the fact that the Jets did trade up from 6th to 3rd overall with the very next pick of the draft. Alibay swore the only thing that could make him even more remotely like the Giants would be for his son to win a Lombardi with them. For a young Saquon, this also meant he too supported the Jets, confessing that Curtis Martin was his favorite player. As we all know, Martin was also a running back who has been enshrined in the Pro Football Hall of Fame since his retirement in 2006, following a stellar career with the Patriots and Jets. Saquon even had the chance to play chess with his idol before the draft, saying that him and his father could understand how much the experience really meant to him. I mean, just by the way Saquon Barkley does play the game, we can all see just the kind of nuances and kind of the inspiration that Saquon does take from, kind of the way we watch Saquon today, we can also see how he kind of takes things from Curtis's game, as well as even Barry Sanders' game, and tries to apply them to his own running style in the NFL nowadays. But that's the other cool thing too, is that the Jets just kind of love he had wasn't the only inheritance of his DNA that he took from his father, because his father's side actually happens to be extremely athletic. Saquon's great uncle, Iran Barkley, was a professional boxer who held the world championship in 3 different weight classes: the WBC middleweight, IBF super middleweight, and WBC light heavyweight in the late 1980s and early 1990s. This inspired his nephew, Alibay, to follow in his footsteps. And despite his natural aptitude for the sweet science, Saquon's father became mixed in with the wrong crowd, serving time on Rikers Island before a serious shoulder injury cut his promising boxing career short. This didn't ruin the sport for him altogether though, as Alibay still encouraged Saquon to pursue boxing as a child. Although the younger Barkley never fully pursued it, he told the Players Tribune that the boxing taught him an invaluable lesson. You see, his father once set up a sparring match with a less physical but better trained opponent. And while Saquon dominated him in the early rounds, his opponent's superior conditioning saw him overwhelmed as the fight went on. And it was that day that taught him that his talent could only take him so far. Nobody was better evidenced of this by himself than his great uncle Iran, who after earning more than $5 million over the course of his boxing career was homeless just after 10 years after retiring. A lesson about consistency that would stick with Saquon and was reinforced by the hardships he faced as a child. And this kind of came in the early 2000s when his father had relapsed on drugs and his mother was just in a bit of a rut, and they had even almost become nearly homeless. Like, after being evicted from their apartment, they couldn't get into the shelter system and subsequently did become homeless. For 8 months, they bounced around friends and family's houses until his mother Tanya sent the children to live with a friend in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. Shortly after, she joined them, telling Alibay that he had to choose between his life in New York and his kids, and thankfully he did choose the kids. They eventually settled in the Lehigh Valley region of eastern PA, with plenty of space for their family and better access to education than they had in New York. But the period of around 8 months where Saquon was homeless profoundly affected him, informing the charitable work that he devoted himself to once he had arrived in the league. His partnership with Covenant House, New Jersey, for whom he raised $7 million in his time as a Giant, was focused on creating a safe space for youth facing homelessness in the region. And it was that time too that after he finally did moved into Pennsylvania, that he dropped boxing completely and just kind of focused on football. And even at the Pee-wee level and middle school level, the dude was just dominant and the best player on the field. But then once he enrolled in high school, the story kind of changed and he was a little bit undersized and actually didn't even get to start as a running back. Often deployed out of position as a freshman, he informed his father of his intention to quit high school football. Alibay told him he couldn't quit so soon because once he did, he could find an excuse to quit everything in his life. Saquon took his father's sage advice, returning as a sophomore to finally get some varsity running back reps at the end of the season. Saquon even took on basketball and track and field as well, a testament to his athletic prowess. But his heart belonged to football as Saquon decided to lock in and truly hone his craft imploring the coaches to open up the weight room for him on weekends in anticipation for a monster junior season. And another interesting thing about him too is that he actually was committed to Rutgers before he fully committed to Penn State. You see, the Whitehall Zephyrs went to Rutgers for a team camp in the summer of 2013, where Saquon stunned everyone, including his teammates, with the progress he had made in that offseason. The Rutgers staff was so impressed that after watching his JV tape and witnessing what he was capable of firsthand that summer, they offered the rising junior a scholarship. I mean, it was just kind of so out of the blue too that Saquon actually called his high school coach to make sure that they didn't make a mistake and were actually offering him a scholarship. I mean, he was being honored by the faith the Scarlet Knights had shown him, and Saquon worked even harder to prove he was deserving of that opportunity. But that does beg the question of how did he become a Nittany Lion then? Well, Saquon's exploits in his junior year generated significant hype around him as a recruiting prospect. Penn State was the first to invite him for an unofficial visit where he got to witness one of the epic 43-40 overtime victory wins against the Michigan State Wolverines at a whiteout game no less. Like, I mean, it's the fans, the atmosphere, and the tradition that swayed the back who was tempted by an offer just 1 week later. Like, I mean, despite receiving late scholarship offers from Notre Dame and Pittsburgh, while refusing Urban Meyer's pleas over the phone that he even considered Ohio State, Saquon decommitted from Rutgers, flipping to Penn State the following February, and the rest is history. And I mean, of course, while dominating at Penn State and just in Happy Valley, I mean, the dude had to make sure he got the full college experience. And well, that's where he met his now wife. He attended a 2016 fraternity formal dinner with Anna Cogden, a Western PA native. The two began officially going out a few short months later and have been together ever since, announcing their engagement in early 2025. Saquon credits her with always having his back both on and off the field and has spoken of the value that building a family with Cogden has brought to his life. The couple's first daughter, Jada, was born in 2018 and endeared herself to Eagle fans early for her reaction to her father signing with Philly. Not only did she ask if this meant we would start winning now, but she already knew the Eagles fight song and was proudly singing it on the family's first visit to the team facility. Saquon has said that he keeps a note from Jada in his locker room at all times, a reminder that there are things more important than football. The youngest member of the family is Saquon Jr., who was born in 2022 and often referred to as SJ by his parents. But I mean, of course, Saquon's legendary career in blue and white came to an end when he declared for the 2018 NFL Draft as one of the most exciting prospects in a quarterback-heavy class. He left State College as the leader in career rushing touchdowns, yards from scrimmage, as well as single-game total yardage. He finished 4th in Heisman voting as a junior with back-to-back Big Ten MVPs to his name, not to mention the Paul Hornung Award for his contribution in the return game and a consensus All-American selection. And I mean, with that resume, any team would have loved to draft Saquon, but taking a running back that high in the draft is up for debate still. And I mean, as we know now, it all panned out, but even though Saquon was electrifying on the gridiron and his presence alone would be worth the entry fee, teams at the top of the draft order had more pressing needs to address. Well, that wasn't until the combine in April where footage of Saquon's workout blew up on NFL social media. He led the running backs in bench reps and vertical jumps while finishing second in the 40-yard dash amongst his position group. Like, I mean, beyond the measurables, his silky route running and shiftiness with the ball in his hands were mesmerizing, causing his draft stock to exponentially grow in the months leading up to the big night. But I mean, just as he had seen his value soar to new heights, labeled a generational prospect with a pro comp of Barry Sanders, Saquon was now being spoken of as a potential first overall pick. But with all this hype around him on the football field, he had more pressing issues off of the field with his family. I mean, while teams were requesting he attended a last-minute workout, Barkley readily declined any and all offers because his first child with Anna Cogden was due in late April, and he refused to leave her side in Pennsylvania's hospitals. This got even tougher as draft day neared, with the big decision looming over whether Saquon would be in attendance on April 26. He told the Players Tribune that the decision was already made. If it was between the draft and my daughter's birth, my little girl's gonna win. Getting drafted is a dream come true, but as much as I love football, family is always first. Thankfully though, as we all know now, their daughter Jada was born on the 24th, 2 days before the draft, which allowed Saquon to fully appreciate two pivotal moments in his very young life, heading to Arlington, Texas just in time to learn his fate of the team drafting him in the NFL. I mean, after walking across the stage at AT&T Stadium to officially become a Giant with the second overall pick, mayhem ensued in the Big Apple. Fans felt the franchise finally had a savior, embracing the New York-born star by breaking the NFL record for draft jersey night sales on draft night. He beat out Johnny Manziel's previous record, which was a remarkable feat considering that there was no guarantee of his jersey number yet. It ended up becoming the 6th best-selling jersey of the entire season. Saquon had officially become a cultural phenomenon among football fans. And as we all know too, he took on the vacant number 26, with which he won the Offensive Rookie of the Year award, following the footsteps of both Barry Sanders and Curtis Martin. Saquon was one of the very bright spots on the struggling Giants franchise, but the hype around him from draft night endured through some brutal seasons in the Meadowlands. His role as a leader in the Giants locker room and a bona fide fan favorite made the events of the 2024 offseason absolutely dumbfounding. And as we speak about that too, the Giants front office encouraged Barkley to test the market in the 2024 free agency, but when the numbers he came back with were too high, they didn't even throw out an offer to the player who was allegedly, quote unquote, the face of their franchise. One of the teams who did try to come on strong for the back was the Chicago Bears, desperate for a clear-cut RB1 to support their next starting quarterback in a new-look offense. Apparently there were reportedly races to the very end, with Saquon himself admitting that he was pretty damn close to becoming a Bear in 2024. But as we all know, Philly did offer more money and a far more stable situation to slot into on a team that had made the postseason for 3 years running. After spending the entirety of his career as a Giant, it's clear where his priorities lay, and it would be tough to turn down the opportunity to move back to the state that became his home with a winning franchise. As we all know too, what followed was a historic year in Philly, where Saquon became the 9th player in league history to surpass 2,000 rushing yards in a single season, while showing out in just his 2nd time reaching the postseason. And it's safe to say that the Bears and the Giants, I think they may have whiffed on this one. But from his humble beginnings in New York to finding himself as both a boy and a man in Pennsylvania, Saquon's humility and drive should serve as inspiration to many, not just to build a better life, but to aspire to greatness regardless of circumstance. And if you want to see the most shocking moments of the 2024-2025 NFL season, then click this video right here.